Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video. And in this video we are going to be continuing on with our C# tutorial series. And in this tutorial we are going to be taking a look at arithmetic operators in C#. Now, what exactly are the arithmetic operators in C#? Well, those are the plus, minus, multiplication, division, and modulus signs. Now, the multiplication, right off the bat, is not an X like you would do in middle school math, and there's no way to do the dot middle line dot division symbol. So I will show you how the division symbol works as well. But the plus and minus operators are exactly what you would expect them to be. So first things first is let's take a look at the addition operator. So let's say we have two integers, right? We have an int called a, and we set that equal to 5. And then we have an integer called b, and we set that equal to, say, 15 maybe. Okay, and so now we have these two integers, and we want an integer called c that will add these two together. So we can do int c equals a plus b, like that. And so now the result, so now c will be 15 plus 5. And we can output that to the console by doing console.writeLine c. Okay, Visual Studio, you're getting a bit overexcited. There we go. And now you can see we have, again, I got a little bit too overexcited there. Okay, so now we have console.writeLine c. And what this will do is it will go in and write the result of c, a plus b, in the console. So do your control F5. Okay, so there was a build error. Okay, let's see. Okay, int a equals 5. Int b equals 15. Yep. We're going to try that again here. So console.writeLine. And we want C. Okay, let's try running that again. And we have build errors. So let's see what those are. Only one complete. Okay. So let's go to the Solution Explorer. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and exclude that from the project. And there we go. Now, of course, again, the error was the fact that there was a folder included in the project that we just needed to exclude because it found two program CS files and they both had what are called top-level statements. We'll talk about those in a later video, but if that ever happens, just go to the thing you don't want in your project and right-click Exclude Project, and boom, there you go. That's how you fix that. So, with the addition operator covered, how do we do the minus then? Well, it's exactly the same way. Oh, I don't want to... There we go. Okay. And so now we can create a couple variables called, let's say, int d equals... Actually, you know what? Let's do floating points this time around. So we can say, let's say decimal d is equal to 3.14159 m. Right, so we have this relatively not super precise, but relatively precise decimal, and we want to subtract a decimal from that. So we can say decimal e equals, we'll say 1.3549 m. This is just random numbers I'm pulling out of my rear, but that's okay. So we got D and E decimals. And we can say decimal F is equal to E minus D. Now you could also do it the other way around, and I'll demonstrate that here in a second, where we can do decimal G equals so we can do D minus E, and we can do E minus D. Now, if you're familiar with how just the normal subtraction works, you should know what G will contain when we're through with it. Now, we can do a console.writeLine we can do an F inside that, and then a console.writeLine G like that. And so we can then, excuse me, we can then go ahead and do a Control F5. And so you can see that G contains a negative number, because when you subtract the smaller number, or when you subtract a bigger number from a smaller number, obviously it's going to be negative, right? So negative numbers are acceptable. They're not out of bounds or anything like that. They are perfectly acceptable. Now, if you're not careful with your large numbers, it could go out of bounds because there are, of course, minimum and maximum values for each data type, and you know you don't want to have to deal with that. So now, that is the minus symbol. That's the minus symbol out of the way. Let's kind of scroll this down here, just a smidge. Now we can go ahead and look at the multiplication. Now, in order to do multiplication, you need to use an asterisk, which is the character you get when you hold down Shift and press 8 on your keyboard. Right. So let's say we have an integer called h, and we can call this, let's say 130. And then we have another integer, and this integer can be called, let's say, well, actually, I have a better idea. What we can do is we can say double, let's say h, and we can say this will be 130.0, and then we can go ahead and do a double I equals 0. We can say 0.1, right? And so then we can do a double j equals h times I. And then now, because we're multiplying h and I, the j will contain 13. Why? Because 10% of 130 is 13. So we can look at that by doing a console.writeLine j like that. Go ahead and do your Control F5. And there it is. All right. So that is multiplication. Now we move into division. Let's again kind of scroll this down here a little bit. Okay, so now for division, we can go ahead and do a, let's have something that divides evenly. So int, we'll say k is equal to, let's say 10, and int l is equal to 5. And int m is equal to k slash l. Now the forward slash is how you divide in programming, generally speaking. So just keep that in mind, that it's the slash you need to use. There's no way to do like a long division type symbol or anything like that. You have to use a slash. Okay, so now that we have that looked at, let's go ahead and take a look at the results in the console. Right? So m should be 2 because 10 divided by 5 is 2. So console.WriteLine M. Just like that. Go ahead and do your Control F5. And there it is. All right. And so now the final arithmetic operator we're going to look at before we talk about another concept, before we end the video, is the modulus operator. So what exactly is the modulus operator then? Well, the modulus operator is essentially used for showing the remainder of a division operation. So let's say we have an int and we call it n, and it'll be equal to 10, let's say. And then int o will be equal to 3. Now, 3 doesn't go into 10 evenly. There will be, 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9, and then there will be 1 left over. So, if we do int p is equal to 10, or is equal to n, and then now we need a modulus operator. How do we do the modulus? Well, it's the percent sign. And the percent sign is what you type when you hold down Shift and press 5 on your keyboard. So do that, n modulus o, and do a semicolon. So now p will be 1. And we can take a look at that by doing a console.WriteLine p, like that. Go ahead and do a Control F5. And you can see that's exactly what it did. Right? So that is the modulus. Now the final thing we're going to talk about, is what's called order of precedence, also known as order of operations. If you're familiar with how that works in math, or rather in your math class back in school, you may have heard of PEMDAS. The order of precedence in programming works similarly, except the exponents aren't necessarily included in that. And you can, obviously you can define where it does its calculations first and all that stuff, like you would in a normal math equation. So let's say we want to have a couple values. So we can say int q is equal to, let's say, 35. Int r is equal to 125, or rather 120, kind of thing, or 1250, something like that. Int s is equal to 2750, and t is equal to 50 int u is equal to 8. Okay, so we have a bunch of different values here. And we can have it int v, and this will be, let's say, p, or rather, let's say q plus q minus r times r, or times s, divided by u plus t. So we have a bunch of different operations here. And basically what this is going to do then is it's going to, it's going to go in and perform the basic order of precedence, which anything with parentheses goes first. Then anything with multiplication, division, then addition, then subtraction. However, if we use parentheses, we can change that around. So let's say we want anything with multiplication and then anything with addition to go first, right? So we can put q plus q in parentheses. And we can put r times s in parentheses. And then u plus t in parentheses. So what this is going to do then is it's going to, it's going to execute all the addition first, all the addition and multiplication first in the parentheses. Or at least it should if the okay. So yeah. So yeah, it'll go and do q plus q first. Then it'll do r times s, and it'll u plus t. So it'll do those three operations first, then it'll use the values of those operations in consideration with the values on the other sides of the minus operations and division operations. So the minus and division operations will go in the order of division and then subtraction. That is, unless you put an extra pair of parentheses indicating where you want operations to go next after the initial parentheses. It's kind of complicated in that way, right? But as it stands right now, if we go ahead and as it stands right now, we can just leave it. We can do a console write line v like that. save it, and do your Control F5. And that is what, the, and so if we, I'm going to go ahead and invert my colors here. Right? And do that. Okay. So here we have all of our values. And then I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to go over. And so this last value here, if I can, yeah, there we go. So this right here, this last value, the negative 59197, that is our final value. For that calculation. So now I'm going to go ahead and decrease the zoom level. We're going to go out of this. I'm going to re-invert my colors. And so that is the order of precedence. And that does it for this video, guys. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you all in the next video where we're going to cover a few of the different assignment operators, increment and decrement operators. So, see you then.